Okay, thank you so much. Is it how do I say your first name?
That's Kishan. So,
Christian.
like Kishan, yeah. So most of
Oh,
the time,
Christian.
people like pronounce it as kitchen, sometimes Christian. So I need to sometimes, portray the symbol of God.
Okay, so basically, thank you so much for joining us, joining me for Dreaming English for a nice conversation. And do you want to talk about your channel where you teach English? You teach more of the grammar.
Yes, I do. But before I start that, I would like to welcome you as well. Because in India, we usually don't say hi and hello. We just say namaste. So namaste from India.
Namaste.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Yes, Rachel. So, yes, I also have a YouTube channel wherein I teach grammar to the people who are actually learning this language, and this basically, helps those who are not the native speakers. In India, it's quite popular that if you have some additional languages, and because English is one of the global languages, so people always prefer to learn this one because you get a lot of opportunity to go outside of, to abroad, and even it definitely helps you out gaining some good score in your studies. And at the same time, if somebody's willing to move for any job interview, right, so that also helps them out. So yes, I cover all of those points to my YouTube channel, and the name of the channel is called Rakesh English Academy. Yes,
Okay, and
I
we'll have a link above us for that. So
okay.
yeah, I teach a little bit differently. I teach more natural, where teaching kind of how where when you were a baby and a toddler and you're learning the language from your parents and from your surroundings. That's how I kind of teach. But there is still importance to the grammar, which I do not teach, because when you're going to take the IELTS test, you're going to take that test to study abroad in an English speaking country. You need to know the grammar. So for that, definitely check out your website. I mean, your YouTube channel, for
Right.
sure. Because like I don't teach the grammar. I learned grammar. We of course learned grammar all the way through elementary school and high school, but I don't think about it when I'm speaking. I'm kind of just speaking to you. I'm not thinking about whether I'm speaking in an active or a passive voice, or whether there's a dangling participle or as such. I'm just speaking, right? But I think it's definitely important to learn the grammar as well. Um,
But
and
I think, Ritu, I would agree to your point as well. So, the language that we use here in India is called, like, Hindi language, right? But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Kishan, would you be able to teach us the Hindi grammar? Then I might not have that complete understanding. So I think the same situation is with you because, whenever we are speaking one particular language, that if you are a native speaker, so I don't think that everybody knows all the bits and pieces of the grammar of the native language. So I think you're absolutely right at your point. But for me, as a native speaker, it's important for us to understand all the minor things about the English grammar, where to use, how to frame those sentences, and what are the the noun, pronouns, and the tenses, active voice, passive voice, direct, indirect. Like there are a couple of things that I always try to teach to people so that they can also gain some confidence in this language.
yeah, that's a really good point. And I think I was speaking to you and others before from India, and always amazed at how I know you told me. I think you said you had been speaking English for how many years?
I would say it's been almost more than 11 years.
Okay. But
Yeah.
I've spoken to some people from India that told me that they've learned English in like 3 or 4 months, and they are at a very intermediate level. And I'm just amazed, almost think it's almost unbelievable. But then when I learn that as a living in India, you naturally speak many languages before you even probably start learning English, just bilingual, trilingual with the languages that you might speak in your region. So by learning English, it's probably much easier to learn that maybe third or fourth language.
Mhm. Yes, of course. So if I give you my example, right? So I speak like Hindi, I speak English, I speak Punjabi, I speak Haryanvi. There is one language called Bhojpuri. So there are a couple of languages that I'm quite comfortable with. So yes, of course, we use a lot of languages.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've been struggling and getting close to being bilingual in Spanish for many, many years, probably maybe more than 20. But now I can understand and speak it, but still it's more my understanding and listening is stronger than my speaking. But I think growing up until age 15, I only spoke English, and that was my only opportunity to I didn't have any other opportunity to learn any other language. So I think learning those other languages and kind of having that natural as your, like having 2 or 3 languages as your natural languages that you learn such a child, learning to learn that 4th language is just easier to crack it and really understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And moreover, I would say that, you should also get the kind of environment. So why I always say this, to all of my viewers, that English is one of the, I would say, one of the easiest language. And even in my last video, I also shared one of my, thought, and I would say rather than idea, that if, let's say, if somebody is willing to learn any other language, like in case, if it's a French or Spanish or Mandarin, right? In that case, you will need to have the kind of environment where people are using that language, so that you can also, try to be a good listener. But if you do not have, that kind of environment, so it becomes a little tricky for you to understand and to learn, because it's definitely going to take a lot of time if you compare it with the language wherein you have people who are already using that language. So if I give you this example, maybe let's say if I live in a country wherein people only use Mandarin, so I'm just taking an example of China, maybe over a period of time, even though I don't know all the main parts of the grammar, but yes, at some point in time, I would start speaking in Mandarin language. So I think, the task that you have selected of learning, you said French, right?
Spanish. Although I
Spanish,
have
okay,
tried
perfect.
to start like a little bit with Duolingo with French and Italian, but it's
Okay.
mainly just I studied Spanish in high school and college, so I have more of a background. When I tried to explore those other languages, I have no background in them, except that they're both Latin-based languages. So there's a little bit of familiarity of like the grammar and the word order, but difficult for me. I think as you were saying, like kind of, you just lost my train of thought. What I was going to talk about.
Okay. Okay. No. So, okay. So let me ask you, a couple of questions here, right?
Sure.
So, if I'm not wrong, that you said that you're from Boston, right?
Yes. So I don't live in Boston, but I live 1 hour. So people really don't know all the cities in Massachusetts. So I just say I'm from Boston because people know that. If I was from Boston, I would talk like this. I parked the car in Harvard Yard. I would not say my R's. I would drop them.
Okay.
But that's probably most people in the world know Boston.
Yeah, exactly. And you rightly just captured that point. And even just correct me if I'm wrong. So I also observed that when we talk to people who are basically who are from United States, so what they do is they definitely roll their tongue, and then people who are in England or maybe in Australia, they don't roll their tongue. So if I take an example, so people in America most probably say it like, "Can you give me some water?" Right? But people in England might say, "Could you please give me some water?" Water, right?
Yes, they do
So
that.
they don't roll their tongue. So I think that's the biggest difference, that they can figure it out if we talk about accent.
I never really realized that we were rolling our tongue. I know there is a difference in, you know, British English and Australian English, but I never really thought of, oh, we're rolling our tongue. That's like new for me. I didn't realize that, but I definitely know there's a difference. Um, but oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Like, kind of immersing yourself, like when you talked about being living in China and just kind of like probably picking up the Mandarin because you were in China for that example. That's definitely, kind of like the idea of immersing yourself. So I went to Costa Rica and spent 3 weeks and kind of immersed myself, and then I spent 2 weeks in Mexico, immersed myself in Spanish. But it's not always possible to do that. But I think now, like when I went to Costa Rica, it was not before the internet, but it was like right when the internet was kind of, developing, right? So it wasn't possible. YouTube didn't exist, all these videos, it wasn't possible to immerse yourself like this.
Absolutely.
Podcast didn't exist, right? I'm kind of dating myself. But the only way to immerse myself was to go to another country. I did have friends. Of course, there's lots of people from all over the world in the United States and lots of people from Spanish speaking countries, but I can't really immerse myself in Spanish by just like, walking around. But now you can do that with the internet. You can listen to podcasts like what I do when I'm walking, when I'm cleaning the house, whatever. I'm listening to Spanish all the time. So I'm constantly exposing myself to the language or immersing myself in it. But I think before you can kind of just listen to like the news in Spanish or the news in English or whatever, you have to kind of pick up some of the language. And YouTube makes that easy by watching and listening to things that are understandable. So that's what I try to do with my channel, is to try to make things that are understandable with pictures and drawings. And I'm like saying, okay, I was looking or whatever, using my hands. So when someone is just really being a very super beginner of the language, they could watch a video, and my hopes is that they could understand the super beginner videos or the beginner videos, while when they get more understanding and they were able to probably be at an intermediate level, they could actually just listen to our conversation and pick up and not be watching. There's also like the being able to see the lips. Now, I can't read lips, but you do start to really understand by watching people as they're speaking. Your mind just starts to kind of read the lips. Well, if I turned off the audio, I don't think I could read the lips, but I think it definitely helps to be able to see the people's faces when you're learning the language.
Yeah,
That makes
absolutely.
sense.
And I agree to your point exactly. So, guys, if you are learning this language for the first time, so that would be my message to all of the viewers. If you're learning this language, so as Rachel rightly said, that yes, if you are a beginner, you should start watching the videos so that you can at least grab some understanding that, when you're listening to people who are using that language, you will at least start grasping that information that, okay, these are the words that how they are pronouncing it. And in fact, I would also suggest that, they can also like turn on the subtitles. That will
Mhm.
definitely help them out, right?
Absolutely. I've had some subscribers that ask me, can I add subtitles or can I add captioning? That's very time consuming, but I found that YouTube adds auto-generated subtitles and they're pretty good. I use
Yeah,
them when I'm learning Spanish all the time. I turn them on and I read along while I'm listening, while I'm watching the person's face and I'm watching them, but I'm also reading along, and that's helping me with reading comprehension. It's helping me with really
exactly.
cracking that language. And yes, turn those subtitles on. For anyone that's asking to add those subtitles, I don't have the time to do it. I don't know about you, but I don't have the time to do that. Some people are doing something where they're doing a script and then it's easy to just upload what they've written. But when I
Right.
make videos, it's kind of like on the spur of the moment, or like I know what I'm going to talk about, but I don't have a script, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you do it manually, so I would say yes, it's a time-consuming process, but yes, you do have that technology like on the AI base, so it automatically gives you that caption. But my problem is that it has never pronounced my name correctly. So whenever somebody says like Kishan, it will always say Christian. Sometimes it will say like kitchen, but not Kishan exactly.
It does mess up mine too. Every single time my name is Rochelle, and every single time it says Rochelle. And I should go in and at least fix that. But it's just so many things that I need to do that I just don't take the time to go in. I should probably go in to all the videos, which I think are probably more than 200 now, and go and fix it to say, hi, my name is Rochelle instead of Rochelle.
Right. So, Rochelle, we have heard that in Boston, the name the Boston was kept like people from England, they started living, in that particular area. So is it truth or just a myth? Because I just wanted to talk to you about it
Oh,
because
yeah. Boston
now I
was
was
people
someone
from
who has.
England, and lots of towns from here are named for towns in England. We have Boston. I don't know much about Boston, England, but there is Worcester, there is Leicester, and Leominster, where I'm from. Leominster is named after Leominster, England. So lots of
Okay.
towns, because it was called New England. So the New England is Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, Maine, and am I missing one? There's seven of them. New
Oh, okay.
Hampshire, New Hampshire. So
New
all of
Hampshire.
those, and Hampshire, like Hampshire was part, like in England, there's a Hampshire, right? I don't know about, but then Massachusetts is not for an English word. It's actually a Native American word. So lots of places here are named for Native American words or tribes. So yes, Boston was settled by people from England. It was the Pilgrims that came over, and they
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
went to Plymouth, but then they eventually moved up to Boston. Yeah.
I think thank you so much for clarifying that because I also heard I was talking to somebody like I would say a few months ago, and then I was just talking about that what do we call people who ride horses. Uh, they wear like long hats and then they ride horses. What do we call that? I forgot the term. I think cowboys. My God,
Cowboys. Yes, Cowboys.
cowboys. Yeah. So I also asked the same kind of question that we have heard about those cowboys. Like, do they exist, or is it just a myth, or are these just the imagination that we see on
No,
the
they
pictures?
definitely exist. They definitely existed and they still do. Not as much, but it's mostly in the West where they would have all these big grasslands where they would go and they would have all these cows, and they would be like doing their lasso and,
Yeah,
probably like grabbing one of the cows and herding them. So like they would herd those cows. I think the idea was the cowboys herded the cows from one place to eat and then another place to eat. So that's why they were called cowboys, because they're herding cows.
exactly. And that was my question that, I always thought that they are riding horses, so why they are called like cowboys? I never saw any cow.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're not called horse boys, they're called cowboys. So.
Right. So we also heard that the Boston city is also called the nickname of that place is also called Pin City. Is it right?
Pin City?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one. I've heard it
No.
called Bean Town because we have like Boston baked beans. It's very popular. They're like beans that they
Yes.
put a lot of like sugar and whatever they bake them. So it's called Bean Town. They call the Massachusetts, they call it the Bay State because we have a really big bay. They call us what
Yes.
else do
Yes.
they call us? They have some other names that aren't as nice to say. Um, they call it Taxachusetts because they say that here in Massachusetts we pay the highest taxes. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, and if you
Is
are
it the
from Boston,
registered?
you're
Is it
you're a
okay? So is
Bostonian.
it like the registered name or just the name by
That's
that?
a nickname. A nickname.
Nickname?
Yeah,
Oh,
so I think that people from around the country will say Taxachusetts because there's high taxes here. People from Boston are called Bostonians. Um,
okay.
let's see, Massachusettsians. I don't think that's really a word, but
Massachusetts. Okay.
uh, Bay Staters. People from Massachusetts are called Bay Staters. So there's lots of different names they call us, and I'm probably forgetting other ones.
Oh, I think it's an amazing experience. So when you are you're living in the United States, but still you have like different time zones. But it doesn't happen here in India. We no matter that which place we are from, but in India we will always have just one time zone.
That was something that was
Quite
strange to me
interesting.
because I asked somebody and they're like, there's only one time zone. And I was like, whoa, your country, I think, is bigger than America. And we have five. So I'm in the Eastern time zone. Then we have Central, we have Mountain, we have Pacific, and then we have Hawaiian, Australian, no, Hawaiian, Alaskan, five time
Oh,
zones. And I was actually just
there
watching
is another thing, I guess. I'm sorry, so please continue.
No, I just was just watching a video on YouTube that talked about all these time zones and how there was like this Greenwich Mean Time and there was 24 time zones that were agreed upon, but every country makes their own decisions. So like Germany has like 11 time zones while India only has one. It's like it
One,
doesn't
yeah.
really make sense.
So I think that there is another time zone which I think that gets changed, which is also called like the winter time
Yes,
zone, if
we
I'm
have
not
that.
wrong.
It's called
Yeah,
daylight savings. So we
yeah, daylight
in
saving,
the
right, right.
fall, I think sometime in October, we fall back. We fall back with the fall. We turn our clocks back. I
Ah,
like that
yes,
because you get
yes.
an extra hour sleep. But then in the spring, we spring ahead, like on a spring, we spring ahead and we turn our clocks forward. And the idea of it is, well, right now they say it saves money because we will have less time of putting lights on and less heating and all that. But they say that in the olden days, it was for the farmers. There's a whole history to that. But and it's not done through the whole entire country. It's done through almost every single state except for Arizona.
Ah, so Rachel, could you please also let me know, like, if everybody does it, like, is it the responsibility of everyone to like manually go ahead and like go back and just check the clock and just turn it back
It
a little bit?
was, but now you have you have your smartphone that just automatically does it, right? And the
Okay.
computers do it. But I have old fashioned clocks that I have to just change them back.
Wow. I think that's something which is interesting because that doesn't happen here in India, and it's quite unique for the people who are watching this video to know, as this is something which also happened because I believe that most of the people were not aware of this thing. I think that that's a good thing for people to know, and I always like to talk to people who are in different states in different countries because we get to know about how they actually what are the customs and what are the traditions that they follow, and this just moving your clock back is, I think, it's a new experience, would be for most of the people who were not aware of this fact.
Yeah,
So thank you so much,
absolutely.
Rachel, for confirming that once again. So Rachel, I've also heard that the one of the biggest, I would say, university, the Harvard University, was first opened in Boston. Is it right?
Yes, I
Because
think that was like soon after, like the Boston was, well, people came from England 1620. Boston, I think, was settled sometime after that. I don't know if it was 1629. And but very soon after Harvard University was started. I'd have to look up the dates, but it was in the 1600s that it was started, and it was an all male college at the time. I think they didn't start admitting females until the 1900s, but I'm not exactly sure. There was another university called Radcliffe that was for females, but now Radcliffe and Harvard are together, and it's Harvard University instead of Harvard College. Yeah, and actually, Boston and Cambridge, there are in Massachusetts in general, but there's tons of colleges and famous ones like MIT is in, you might have heard of MIT, is in Cambridge, Harvard and Wellesley and all these very famous colleges around the world. My son actually is going to Northeastern, which is not as famous as Harvard, but pretty famous around the world, I think. He's going to go there this coming fall to study mechanical engineering. He had applied to go to MIT, but any case, Northeastern's very good as well. So Harvard is very famous around the world. It's beautiful. It's one of those places that doesn't need to advertise. They just get tons of people from all around the world applying, and one of the most difficult colleges, I think, in the world besides MIT to go to.
Yeah.
In fact, my brother who went to MIT said, okay, when people get into MIT and they don't accept MIT, very few don't accept MIT, but the ones that don't accept MIT, do you have a guess of where they might have gone to instead? They accepted for Harvard. So the only people that don't go to MIT that get accepted to MIT generally have been accepted to Harvard and vice versa. But if you get accepted to Northeastern and you get accepted to Harvard, you're going to go to Harvard, right?
Yes, of course. And even I would say, the brand actually matters sometimes.
It does. I mean, they're all very good colleges, but Harvard has that. It's like, I'm not sure if it's like the number one, but I think it's probably up there, number one we call Ivy Leagues. And that another thing, if you wonder what the name Ivy League came from. So all of these colleges here in the Northeast or around the United States that are these historic and really hard to get into, they also have this ivy that is growing along the brick buildings. And that's why they're also called the Ivy Leagues, because they're hard to get into, but they have this beautiful green ivy.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I think in the month of July, you will also have some sand festival in Boston.
There are some festivals. I'm not sure. I know, well, we have like,
I was
well,
just
month of
guessing.
July, we have big Independence Day things that the
Okay.
last 2 years haven't been as much, but that is where the biggest celebrations for Independence Day, the parades and reenactments of the Revolutionary War. And we have a oldest historic, still afloat military ship that we call Old Ironsides. It's called the U.S. Constitution. It'll go out into the harbor and come back, and that's pretty cool. So there's a huge big firework display in Boston, but I think this year they didn't do it because of COVID still.
Wow. So do you also have, the Constitution written on a specific book? Like here in India, we have that complete book. And I've also heard like in most of the most of the countries, like they don't have the written Constitution. They have like oral Constitution. So it is there, in some countries.
Yeah,
So
our Constitution, I believe, it's in Washington D.C. and it is written, and you can go view it through like a glass. You're looking down. It's very protected from all the environment, but you can view it if you go to Washington D.C. to. I'm not sure which particular building it's in, but I did view it. It's in one of those national monument parks or whatnot that you can actually view the Constitution. It might be in the Library of Congress, I believe.
but I think people can also, go ahead and buy some books.
You can actually buy the Constitution itself. The actual Constitution is one
Exactly.
page, but you can buy a little paper and actually carry it around with you of it for sure. Obviously, there's been all kinds of amendments and all kinds of other things that are written or whatever, but the actual, well, there's the Declaration of Independence. That was when we became independent from England. That's like one page signed by all the forefathers. And then the Constitution, again, is like one page that is in Washington. In fact, I think there's more than one, but because they would like probably make a copy, keep one in Philadelphia, one in Washington, and so on. And they would all be handwritten with, those quills and whatnot. And but the one that is the most important one is the one that we have in the national, I believe it's the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., that you can actually go and view, and you can see it for free and you can view it. But again, you're looking down at it and it's being protected from sunlight and protected from air and oxygen and all that.
Right. And even, the Constitution of India as well, it was also, handwritten. So I think, our forefathers, they did a great job. And today, the technology has completely changed. Now you have like, the speech recognition function. So you don't even have to type anything. You just say it and then it will be there on your screen. So
Absolutely.
I think they put in all of their hard efforts to make, our country free, and then to set the rights for the people. And I think it was an essential part, because no country can run without any constitution, because in that case, nobody would know what are their rights, what are they doing, if they make any mistake, what are the penalties that they will have to pay. So I think constitution is one of the essential part of any country.
Yeah.
Great. So Rachel, what are the I would say, what are the tips that you would like to give it to those people who are not the native speaker of this language? And what are the challenges that you realized that when you started learning Spanish? Because I think, we can correlate both of the things,
Yeah.
and
I
then
mean, I think what
bring out.
my tips would be to listen before you speak, because if you start speaking too soon, you're going to probably develop bad habits of pronunciation. So you really need to listen, develop that ear, and you can do that easily with the internet, with podcasts and all that. And not just like 10 or 100 hours, but thousands of hours actually. And my experience learning Spanish was like really kind of learning it in books in school and learning the grammar. And really that didn't work for me, because I would study and study, and I'd learn that and I'd take a test, but then I would forget those rules and I'd forget all the basics. So I think what was really helpful for me now is just kind of doing what I'm doing now, is like listening, because the idea for my channel came from another channel that's teaching Spanish in a similar way, where it's kind of like making this content that's very easy to understand with pictures and drawings and all that. And
Okay.
so I do that. I listen, I watch, I find things that I enjoy. So I like travel, and there's a YouTuber, his name is Lucito, and he goes to India, he goes to China, he goes all over the world. And
Yes, I've seen his videos. I think
probably
he's
seen
an.
them. Like, so most of what I know about India is from Lucita, right? And
Oh,
when he's traveling, he's making these videos and he's speaking Spanish. But when he goes to speak to someone in India, he doesn't speak Spanish. He speaks English to them, and perfect
yeah.
English, because people in India probably don't know Spanish, right? So that is what makes that English that international language, right? So that's interesting. But I can watch his videos and I can learn Spanish, but I can also learn about the world and places I never, there's this like one place where there was one video that he did in India where it's this place where many people go to have death ceremonies, and they have this river. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think yeah, it's Ganga. It's here.
Yeah,
It's
so
called.
he made a video of that, and that was like, like I would never think to, go there. I would never think to know about that, but by watching him kind of talk to the people and show the thing, and the way that he does the videos, I learned about that place. Of course, I didn't remember the name of it, but it embedded, and I learned more about India from Lucito than any other way. But that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And yes, I have also seen, a couple of his videos, and he's an interesting guy. And he makes videos like, so. If you start watching his videos, you would not like, feel tedious, and you would enjoy each and every shot that he has presented on his video. So I
I
think it's
love
a
what
good.
he does too, is he has different shots. Like he'll put the camera down low and he'll be crouching down, and then he puts it in a tree. So and
All
then
the
he also does like, he must have like a drone. So he'll do
right.
drone stuff, and it makes the video more interesting. I'm trying to do that with my own stuff. Of course, I don't have all the equipment and probably people to help me, but I'm trying to make my videos be a little bit more interesting. Let me throw in like some footage of what I'm talking about, or kind of make it a little more interesting, because I think that's what makes his interesting too, is that he's showing you all these different perspectives. Like you wouldn't look at things like down from the ground, but he puts that video camera down on the ground and looking up.
Absolutely. So, it gives like some creative efforts as well on it. So you don't feel bored while
Yeah.
watching this video. So had it been just one shot wherein you have the same background and there is nothing moving, nothing changing. So after some point in time, you would feel like, no, you don't want to watch it anymore. Now you'll probably, change the channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen his videos, and he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So in fact, in my sessions, what I do is like I give like video content on the YouTube. Apart from that, I also arrange some free live sessions with all of those students who are working. And along with that, I also have my offline academy, wherein people who are the advocates here in Delhi. So basically, advocates in Delhi High Court. They are planning to move for the higher position. Like they are moving to, they're planning to basically move to the Supreme Court. And there is one term here in India. If you want to be an advocate of Supreme Court, it's important for you that you should have good communication skills, because all the cases that you would be discussing and all the practice that you will be doing would be only in English language. So I also teach them, these languages, and I give them some information that how they can uh, build their language. Along with that, the public speaking is also important. So I just let them know that sometimes people think that, okay, if you can't speak English, that means you're not a good public speaker. And then I say, no, that's not the case, because public speaking is a different thing and English speaking is a different thing. So in one of my sessions, what I did was I said, okay guys, so today we are going to do something additional that we never did it before. So I gave them the opportunity. I said, okay, today we are not going to speak in English language, because this is not our first language. Okay, because I have observed that most of the people are not feeling comfortable while speaking this language. So what I did was I said, okay, now I'm going to give you one opportunity that you will be speaking in your own native language. Highly possible that the rest of the people might not able to understand. They might not able to get whatever you're saying. But at least the point is that you should avoid that shyness, and you should have that confidence that when you're talking like among 30 people, so how you're sharing and how you're expressing your thought process. And trust me, Rochelle, the session went very well, and then everyone was so comfortable. And then they thought, okay, so, and then I also gave them the feedback. I said, guys, English again is a language, Hindi is a language, Chinese, or I would say rather Mandarin is a language, Spanish, French. These are the language which gives you an idea that how you are going to communicate and share your thought process. But the way you process your thoughts is something which is apart from that you have already gained in your lifetime, because sometimes it becomes a little hard for us to leave behind the traditions that we are raised with. But it's also important that when we have a good confidence while we are speaking in front of people, then once you build the confidence, then I think you should go ahead and consider the language to be a kind of a medium to share among people. So that session went very well, and everyone was so comfortable. And to be very honest, that most of the people were not able to understand each other, not at all. But the way that we were listening to them was amazing. The kind of intonation that they were using, the kind of pronunciation that they have, the kind of jaw moment that they were utilizing, like everything was super awesome. But the only thing was that it was not in English language. So I think, yeah, I also want to make sure that whenever I'm conducting those sessions, I just stay with my, my people. I would say, people who are loving this language. So in my sessions, people come from Dubai, people come from Oman, people come from India, different states of India, and some other countries as well. So I just want to make sure that when we have the communication session, we also, take feedback, and we also give feedback to each other, and that's how we are going to improve. Because sometimes, I don't want them to understand anything out of the context. Rather than that, just get feedback and share feedback, and nobody's going to take feedback to your heart, because if you don't want to get any feedback, then nobody will give you any feedback. But in my opinion, I think it's always good to receive feedback from people, because that's how we improve ourselves, right? We get to know sometimes highly possible, I would say, that while I'm speaking, or maybe my thought process is not good while I'm communicating, and while I'm sharing any about any topic. So let's say the topic is women empowerment, right? Highly possible. Let's take an example. Now, English comes in the second place, but first place is that what my thought process is when I talk about women empowerment, right? If I'm thinking good about it, or if I'm thinking bad about it. So my thought process is the first priority, and then the language. So in my session, we always try to make sure that people are learning things, and people are improving, people are growing. We play, we conduct like different sessions. Wherein on Sunday we have a special session which is called Sunday Fun Day, right?
Oh,
So
I
in
like
that
that.
session, we don't talk
Catchy.
about English language, and we don't talk about learning anything. We just simply talk about about our hobbies. And sometimes people say that, hey, I want to sing, though I'm not a good singer. I also say the same thing. I'm not a singer, but I always love to sing, like all the English songs, all the Hindi songs. People, they play guitar, and people sometimes they talk about the stories that they have already written. So on Sunday we make it like a fun day kind of session, wherein everybody enjoys, and those sessions are absolutely free. We don't charge anything from anyone, and we just want to give the kind of a space to everyone who is learning this language. So that's how we go ahead and we collaborate with people. Apart from that, so these are the activities that I perform apart from what I'm already doing for my bread and butter. So I also give training to the APAC countries, like countries in Australia and New Zealand, and the APAC countries like Singapore, China, Thailand, Korea as well. So I basically give them software trainings. Apart from that, whenever I have some time, I always try to spend that time with people who are learning this language, because I really love English language from the
Well,
bottom of
yeah,
my heart.
thank you for sharing. That's awesome. I love the sound of that, all that, that you're giving back and that you're helping people with the language. And, those that sound like very interesting topics as well. I do want to be mindful of the time. So if we want to like wrap up probably soon because it's long, but we can definitely have more conversations in the future.
Yes. So thank you so much, Rochelle, and thank you so much for creating the environment wherein people can share their thoughts, and the rest of the people can also see and can observe something out of it. So I think it was a pleasure to talk to you today, and I hope to see you again. I wish you enjoy the rest of your time.
Okay, yeah. And so thank you so much for joining as well. And make sure all our viewers to um to subscribe to both channels as well. If you want to learn grammar, you should subscribe to, what's the name of your channel again?
Yeah, it's called Rekish English. So if somebody types like Rekish, REYKISH, so the only channel that will appear on the YouTube, that would be mine.
And it will be in the description as well for I will definitely post it in my description.
Yeah, and guys, you can also see the description as well, and you can just have a look at Rachel's channel, and please do subscribe, because you're going to get a lot of information from Rachel's channel, and because she provides all the interesting tongue twisters, and also some real time situations. So I would recommend you to go ahead and subscribe Rachel's channel, and definitely you're going to get a lot of communication and information in terms of enablement and in terms of learning as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, Rachel. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.